happy to have Sergeant in the NYPD, Stephen Lee. I saw your interview elsewhere, and I was really blown away. It's not often you get an actual whistleblower who's currently serving as a police officer. You're also running for office, which I want to get into here in New York. But I wanted to start because you've come out basically openly saying that the NYPD, I assume other police departments, are operating based on a quota system. They are essentially forcing arrests to meet that quota system, and other things that aren't based on actual crime, but based on meeting, quotas and things like that. Can you kind of talk about how long you've been a police officer, what made you want to be a police officer, and what was the first kind of situation that made you feel this isn't what I signed up for?
15 years, January 2005, when I started becoming a police officer. What made me become a police officer? I always enjoyed helping people, and I always, enjoy helping the community. And what made me realize, oh crap, this is not for me anymore. I don't know. I guess there always was I guess a little downside to it when I first started. They were like, oh, you got to bring in 20 summonses and 1 arrest every month and stuff like that. And they would try to convince me that that's the culture, right? There are ways around it. Like, you could pretend that you couldn't find anything, but then they punish you for it. What really made me decide, oh my God, I can't take this no more, was when I went undercover. When I went undercover and I realized, wow, this system is really broken, and it's really corrupt, and I need to fix it. But I realized I couldn't fix it from within NYPD because it's controlled by politics. So, I have to get into politics in order to pass legislation to change it.
And what were some of the things you saw when you went undercover that made you think, wow, this is corrupt?
What really opened my eyes was realizing that the job is so controlled by the higher brass, the upper brass, that people get away with anything they want. Anything they want. I've seen people get away with rape. I've seen people get away with, basically, I would say manslaughter, right? Maybe not. I wouldn't say murder. Maybe manslaughter. Maybe murder. But I don't want to define it further. Really messed up stuff. Really, really, really messed up stuff. And they would get away with it only because they knew, people in higher positions. Then when I realized that internal affairs, the check and balances of NYPD was corrupt, I realized, wow, this is crazy. This is not for me.
Mm-hmm. And can you kind of talk about, because obviously we've seen over the last, we've seen it for years, but specifically the last few months, all of these high-profile murders of black men, and then you see the police unions come out, and it's like the police unions, particularly in New York City, a police officer could never do wrong in the eyes of the police union. And I don't think that's gotten much of attention in the national media, how much of a force the police union plays in terms of the politics. Cuomo, for example, has taken more money than any governor from police unions. As a police officer, what was your impression and experience in terms of police unions and the power that they wield in terms of this culture of corruption.
Oh man, you really can get me in trouble now.
That's the goal.
They suck. They suck. They don't really represent you. They represent themselves. They're in for their own best interests. They're definitely political. I was told when I first needed a lawyer, my union rep, he's a good guy, and he was like, "Steve, you need to get a lawyer because they're coming after you." And I'm like, "Okay, I want a union lawyer because it's supposed to be free, right? It's my right as a union member to get a union lawyer to represent me." And he was like, "No, get a private lawyer." And I was like, "Why?" He was like, "Because the union, the SBA's lawyer is just going to use it as a bargaining chip to get what they want later on. And so they don't have your best interests in mind." Thank God he's retired now, so he can't get in trouble for saying that. But, it's really bad. There was so many times that they supposedly represented me at hearings and stuff, or not even when I wasn't even the subject. Like sometimes I was there when they just had to debrief me, and the thing is, okay, your union reps are there, right? And then there was one time we were in Internal Affairs headquarters, and I wasn't supposed to get any contact with the police officer, the detective that I arrested, but he was sitting right by the elevator. That's where all these cops sit, right? When they get in trouble, they sit there, they check in. These are the ones that are suspended. They still have to check in. So I go, "Hey, isn't that Detective Yam sitting there?" And they're like, "Oh, no, I don't think so. Let me go check," right? And they'll go check. The Internal Affairs wants to go check. They're like, no, that's not him. I know how he looks after investigating him for so long. I know his habits, how he moves and stuff. So I went to the guy that they check in with, right? Because I had a deal with him last time. And he was like, "Yeah, that was him." With a gray hoodie on? "Yeah, that was him." And I was like, these guys, like, really? Like, you're going to put me in danger? Like, now this guy, what if this guy wants to follow me from here and, follow me home or something, or wants to harm me when I'm outside? Because I basically got this guy fired, you know what I mean? And I destroyed his well, I didn't destroy it. He's probably still getting paid off now, but, like, I blew him up, right? With his shaking down of businesses and rapists and drug dealers and stuff like that. Like, this guy doesn't like me, obviously, right? So, like, if he wanted to retaliate, he could have just waited for me outside and waited for me to come out and blast me, and that could have been done. So it's like they have no interest in protecting the people that come forward and whistleblowing. They only have interest in protecting themselves and damage control and stuff like that, and saving face. That's what they have interest in. That's what Internal Affairs is. It's not about cleaning up corruption. It's about the public image of the NYPD.
Right. And can you kind of talk about, because, I mean, from Eric Garner to the countless other names, we hear so much about the training module and, we need to work on the training. But the bottom line is, you got a lot of people there, not just in the NYPD, but all over the country, that are they are trained to police more or deem as a threat more certain communities, certain shades, and certain demographics. And then there's the built-in racial biases. Is this an issue of training, or is this an issue of there's an illogical feeling of there's a threat if a black man or brown man is near me in somewhat of a menacing situation?
I'm going to be fair about this, right? It has nothing to do with the training. In training, they train you one thing. In the street, you do another thing. Also, the training is not enough. It's just like, okay, you go one day for a couple hours and boom, you're trained. You're qualified now. And it's like, but I don't fully understand how to use this equipment, or I don't, it's like, it's not like real training where it's like intensive drills and you keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. No, it's just you go for a couple hours, you watch a couple of slides, they demonstrate, you're trained. Definitely need more training, right? The second thing is, it has a lot to do with ignorance, right? A lot of ignorance and misunderstanding of the different cultures. A lot of people that are hired, it's their first time in the city, right? They don't really come out to the city that much. They're like maybe raised in Long Island or upstate and stuff like that, and they're used to hanging out those neighborhoods. They go to these different neighborhoods and they see these different cultures, people of color running around. They're like culture shocked, right? And they're like, whoa, what's going on here, right? What are they doing? They don't understand it. And so it causes some kind of like fear, because when you go to the precinct, also the job, what they drill in you is, it's us against them. It's us against them, right? We only watch our own back. Be careful, you know, these people, you know, that person, this, you know, might attack you when you got your back turned or something like that. So just always watch your back, always watch your six, you know, make it home alive and stuff like that. And they drill this fear into you. But they also say, hey, you know, be courteous. Or I was taught different, right? From where I was from, it was a busy precinct. I started out in the 6-7 East Flatbush. I was raised in Flatbush, so I knew the culture. But some of the senior guys there were like, hey, listen, always shake somebody's hand, be a gentleman, you know, talk to them. And you never know, that person could save your life one day. You know, so I was always courteous to people. I was always talking to people. You know, I always get like when you arrive and they start screaming at you and they're like, "Oh, nobody called the police, you pig," blah blah blah, and all that stuff. And it's like, well, listen, sir, I didn't choose your house randomly. You know, you get the radio central to play back the radio run, the 911 call, and they'll be like, "Oh, but nobody called. Okay, central, can you try to call back?" And then their phone will ring, and then it's like, "Oh, but we don't need you." Okay, you know, but I still have, now that I'm here, I still have to check to make sure everything's all right, because it's a liability issue, right? Mm-hmm. If I leave and then God forbid something happens, then they blame me for not doing my job, right? So there's a lot of tension and hate between the community and NYPD, right? NYPD sees the community as the enemy. The community sees NYPD as the enemy. And that's the problem. We need to reteach everyone and re-educate everybody on the different cultures and, you know, what NYPD is supposed to be. And I think that's how one way you could bridge the gap between NYPD and the community, where, you know, you get more community events out there along with NYPD. You teach NYPD more how to speak instead of action and reacting to things, right? So a lot of these me and my partner, we used to be really good at talking to people, and it was like, hey, what's going on? They start screaming. Some people start screaming up here, you know, some cops would start screaming up here, you know. So I always start down here, and when the person's screaming up here, they're screaming. I'll say to them, hey, listen, look, I'm talking to you like a gentleman. Let's talk person to person. I'm not yelling, I'm not screaming. If you keep screaming, I'm not going to be able to hear you. And as the authoritative, this natural reaction is to try to scream on top of you. And then, you know, we're going to get into an argument where it's not going to go anywhere, right? And a lot of times they're like, yeah, but F you, F that. And I'm like, look, what have I done to you personally, you know? And they'll understand. They'll be like, all right, cool. And then they bring it down, and they'll be like, listen, I apologize, you know, like, I was angry, you know. And then I like, I totally understand. You know, if it happened to me, I'll be angry too, right? We're all human. And we would solve the case, and, like, you know, it would be more of a better end result, as opposed to the person that comes and just starts screaming, blah, 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 get your hands out your pockets, put your hands on the wall, turn around, let me, you know. And it's like, whoa, why are you doing all that? I just got this guy calm. Why would you do that, you know? So you gotta see, like, the psychological people, where if they know how to talk to people or not. Mm-hmm. You know, so That's the reason why I think the society fights with law enforcement so much. It's the way the mentality is brainwashed into us, right? Whereas the higher brass is always saying it's us against them, it's us against them, and the community is always thinking it's them against us, right? So we need to reteach that and educate people more on things.
Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.